You've spent the year with your hands in the soil, planting, pruning, talking to your garden like an old friend. The sun may set earlier now, the air sharper, the birds quieter, but that doesn't mean the story ends. I like to refer to it as the chill before the rest. Long before grocery stores and grow lights, gardeners learned to stretch the growing season any way they could, storing, sheltering, and coaxing life through the cold months. In those days, overwintering wasn't a clever trick, it was survival. So today, we're stepping into that tradition, blending the wisdom of old-time gardeners with modern know-how. By the end of this guide, you'll know how to help your plants rest through winter and wake in spring like nothing ever happened. Before we start hauling pots and blankets, let's get our bearings. Every garden has a rhythm, and that rhythm starts with knowing exactly where you stand. Think of your USDA Hardiness Zone as your garden's fingerprint. It tells you how low winter temperatures usually drop and which plants can handle it. If you live in Zone 6, like much of Ohio, your average lows hover around -10°F. A plant rated for Zone 7 may protest in that kind of chill, while one rated for Zone 4 will shrug it off. Gardeners a century ago didn't have fancy charts, yet they learned the same lesson through trial and heartbreak. They'd mark which plants perished each winter, and by spring, those notes became local wisdom passed from neighbor to neighbor. Fun fact, the official USDA zone map was first published in 1960, revolutionizing how Americans gardened. But your great-grandparents probably relied on the same indicators: the woolly worms, the persimmon seeds, and the feel of the wind. So, once you know your number, you'll know your limits, and more importantly, your opportunities, because overwintering isn't about defying winter, it's about working with it. Now that we know our battlefield, let's rally the troops, starting with the hardy ones who can face the frost with just a little encouragement. Your perennials and shrubs in containers are tougher than they look, but remember, soil in pots freezes faster than soil in the ground. The earth insulates like a thick quilt. Pots sit out in the open like bare feet on cold tile. That's where the outdoor huddle comes in. Move your containers against a south-facing wall. It captures sunlight and blocks the bitter wind. Nestle the pots together as close as kittens. Wrap the outside with burlap, bubble wrap, or even old feed sacks. Then pile straw or shredded leaves around the base. Old-timers used whatever they had: corn stalks, pine needles, even wool scraps, to trap warmth. Some even dug shallow trenches and half-buried their pots for extra insulation. Before that first hard freeze, give every plant a deep drink of water. Moist soil stores heat, like a thermal battery beneath the surface. And remember, not every plant needs saving. Sometimes mercy means letting go. Focus on what's rare, expensive, or holds sentimental value. The rest will return in seed or spirit come spring. When the last leaf falls and the garden sighs its final breath for the year, there's a different kind of beauty. Quiet, sleeping, waiting. Now, before we move on to the next method, let's step into our own garden here at Buckeye Bloomstead. The last of summer's color has faded, and what remains tells the story of a season well lived. The tomato vines that once climbed our cattle panel tunnel have been cleared away, leaving behind the quiet framework that will welcome next year's crop. Our raised beds now rest under soft blankets of mulch, ready for the long sleep of winter. This year, we decided not to plant an autumn garden. Sometimes, even the soil deserves a Sabbath, a chance to breathe, to rebuild, to simply rest. When spring returns, we'll enrich these beds with fresh soil, aged manure, bone meal, and all the good things that feed life back into the earth. We could have sown a cover crop, letting it restore nutrients before turning it back into the soil, but this year, we chose renewal over routine. Over time, the soil in our raised beds has settled, so we'll top it up with compost, chicken manure, and rich organic matter, bringing it back to that sweet balance nature loves. As the trees shed their leaves, we'll gather them and tuck them right into the beds, covering them with soil to help them decompose through the cold months. By spring, they'll have transformed into dark, nutrient-rich compost, proof that even decay has purpose in the garden. Winter is also the season to tend to the bones of the garden itself. We'll inspect the wooden frames of our raised beds, repair what time and weather have worn down, and strengthen what needs it, so that come spring, our garden is not only alive but sturdy. And over in one special bed stands one of our pride and joys, our asparagus patch. It's 5 years old now, still young by asparagus standards, and should bless us with another 10 years of tender spears come late spring. But even asparagus, that hardy old perennial, needs a little care before winter arrives. Wait until after the first light frosts. When leaves start to drop, that's nature's cue. Trim away dead foliage, tidy the soil, and carry them to their winter quarters. Now comes the balance. Too little water and roots shrivel. Too much and they rot. Check them monthly. If the soil feels like dry flour, give just enough water to moisten it. Let's talk a moment about preparing the asparagus bed for winter. As the chill deepens and the fronds begin to yellow, it's nature's way of saying the season is done. That's when it's time to prepare the bed for its long rest. First, cut back the stalks and ferns to just above the soil line once they've died back naturally. This simple act keeps pests and diseases from overwintering in the old growth. Stop watering once the stalks are gone. The roots prefer to rest in dry, cool soil during dormancy. Next, spread about 2 inches of mulch or compost over the bed to insulate the crowns from temperature swings. In colder climates, like much of Ohio, add a thicker blanket of straw or shredded leaves over the mulch. It keeps the crowns cozy and prevents freeze damage. Early settlers often used root cellars for more than food, storing potted geraniums and herbs beside apples and carrots. The air stayed cold but not freezing, and the scent of earth reminded them that spring would come again. You can recreate that same quiet magic right in your own garage. And some plants prefer that kind of rest. Borderline hardy plants, rosemary, potted figs, small citrus, bay laurel, don't need warmth, they need steady chill. Think of them like bears hibernating. They're alive but resting deeply. An unheated garage, shed, or basement makes a perfect den. Aim for temperatures between 30 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Above that, they might wake too early. Below it, they'll freeze. Of course, not everyone enjoys the cold. Some plants would rather move in, sit by the window, and bask in your central heating. Your tropicals, hibiscus, mandevilla, ferns, or elephant ears have no patience for frost. Once nights dip below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it's time to invite them indoors. But before you open the door, inspect every leaf and stem. Pests that barely bothered outdoors can multiply like wildfire inside. Give your plants a gentle shower or a spritz of insecticidal soap before they cross the threshold. Inside, place them near the brightest window you have. South-facing is ideal. If the winter light feels weak, a small grow light can mimic tropical sun. Keep them away from heating vents and drafty doors. Old-time gardeners swore by grouping indoor plants together, not just for looks, but because plants release moisture, creating their own pocket of humidity. A shallow tray of pebbles and water beneath them works wonders too. If leaves yellow or fall, don't panic. It's just their way of saying, we're adjusting. Give them time and new growth will emerge. Proof that you've brought a little summer back inside. Now, what about the hidden treasures? Those sleeping bulbs and tubers resting beneath the soil? Let's wake them gently and give them a place to dream. When frost nips the tops of your dahlias, cannas, or gladiolus, that's their bedtime signal. Cut the stems to about 6 inches and dig carefully using your hands if you can. Metal tools can wound tender tubers. Lay them on newspapers in a dry, shady place for a few days. This curing period allows tiny scratches to heal, sealing in moisture. Once they're ready, pack them loosely in peat moss, sawdust, or even shredded newspaper. The goal is to prevent drying without suffocating them. Store them in a cool, dark spot. Around 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit is perfect. Check monthly, like you would on old friends. If one looks soft or moldy, remove it. If another shrivels, a gentle mist revives it. Here's a fun historical tidbit. Victorian gardeners used to store their dahlias in boxes under the bed, not for convenience, but because bedrooms were the only rooms cool enough without freezing. They'd proudly replant them each spring, calling them their winter children. While those treasures rest inside, let's turn back to the garden itself, because some plants prefer to face winter head-on. For hardy crops like carrots, parsnips, beets, and turnips, frost isn't the enemy, it's the flavor maker. Cold triggers sugars to rise in the roots, giving you the sweetest harvests of the year. Cover your root beds with a thick 4 to 6 inch blanket of straw or shredded leaves. You'll be able to pull up vegetables all winter long, so long as the ground doesn't freeze solid. Kale, collards, and spinach are winter champions. They'll grow under snow if given a little protection. A cold frame, simply a box with a glass or plastic lid, can raise the temperature inside by 10 degrees or more. Pioneer families built theirs from old windows and leftover boards, calling them hotbeds. Even when the world outside slept under snow, they'd open that glass lid to find fresh greens waiting. Don't forget your garlic, planted in fall so the cold can split each clove into a bulb. Cover the bed thickly with mulch and let winter do the rest. And for perennials like asparagus and rhubarb, once their tops die back, cut them down and protect the crowns with compost. They'll thank you come spring. By now, the garden looks still, quiet, perhaps even lifeless, but below the surface, it hums with unseen energy. Roots breathe slowly, insects burrow deep, and nature waits for her cue. Check your overwintering setups every few weeks. Brush off snow from cold frames, look for signs of rot, test the soil's moisture. It takes only minutes, but those small acts keep your garden alive. If you listen closely, you'll notice that winter gardening is as much about patience as it is about plants. It reminds us that rest is part of growth. As an old farmer once told me, the garden never truly sleeps, it just dreams a little slower. So here's your winter game plan. 1. Know your hardiness zone. 2. Huddle your hardy container plants. 3. Tuck your borderline perennials into cold, sheltered spots. 4. Bring your tender tropicals inside. 5. Dig, cure, and store your bulbs and tubers. 6. Mulch your in-ground veggies and watch winter's sweetness unfold. Do these, and come spring, your garden will rise again, stronger, wiser, and ready to bloom. So tell me, friends, what's your favorite old-fashioned winter gardening trick? Do you use straw, leaves, or maybe something your grandmother taught you? Share it in the comments. I read everyone, and you just might inspire another gardener to try something new. Before we wrap up, I want to share something I think you'll really enjoy. We've created Buckeye Bloomstead's Ultimate Gardener's Companion Journal, your go-to garden planner designed to help you track, plan, and grow your garden all year long. It's available right now on Amazon, and it also makes a thoughtful gift for any gardener in your life. I'll leave the link below in the video description if you'd like to take a look. You know, one of the best things about our Ultimate Gardener's Companion Journal is that it's more than just a planner. It becomes a living record of your garden's journey. By writing down what worked, what didn't, where your seeds came from, your fertilization schedules, and even your pest control notes, you're creating something you can refer back to season after season. Because let's be honest, if you're anything like me, there's no way you'll remember every little detail once next spring rolls around. And you know what the best part is? The journal is affordable enough that you can start a new one each growing season, keeping a collection of your garden's history over the years. Many gardeners also love the idea of passing them down. When family members inherit those notes, your tips, tricks, and hard-earned wisdom, they're not just getting a book, they're getting a piece of you. We've even added a space right in the front of the journal where you can note the year it covers, so you, and those who one day inherit your gardening journals, will always know which season each book represents. It's something they can cherish year after year, a little part of your garden that keeps on growing. You can find Buckeye Bloomstead's Ultimate Gardener's Companion Journal right now on Amazon. The link's in the description below. Each purchase helps to support our channel, so that we can continue to bring you videos we hope you will enjoy. If this video helped you, give it a thumbs up, share it with your garden friends, and subscribe to Buckeye Bloomstead so you don't miss what's blooming next. Until next time, stay warm, stay inspired, and remember, the garden may rest, but the gardener never truly stops. Thank you for being with us today. We will see you next time on Buckeye Bloomstead.